My name is Tempel, and I'm an addictions counselor at Tranquility Woods. I chose to work here at Tranquility Woods largely because of the absence of individual care I noticed at other facilities that were treating addiction. And when I heard this place was offering as many individual sessions as it was, I felt that they're getting it right, and I want to be a part of that process because I feel like that's what not only was missing, but that was something that I felt very drawn to in my professional and personal growth. So here at Tranquility Woods, we are accepting of people who identify as LGBTQ or any other sexual orientation, and we are experienced in working with the intricacies of that population that make recovery even more challenging, whether it comes to housing, it comes to the stigma of recovery in that community, additional shame and guilt that come from the societal norms that make recovery more complicated. So I would say I would feel very comfortable with working with someone in that population. So my role is as primary counselor is to meet with clients, both individual, group, and in family sessions. I also provide clinical support, whether that comes from helping with referrals and setting up aftercare for my clients, helping other clinicians work with our clients. So it's very team focused. So whenever anyone is here, it's not simply just me and that client. It is the whole team kind of coming together to best help that client. Allow yourself to be uncomfortable. Addiction it's a lot of things, but I find in my experience it's all about avoiding discomfort. And I find the things that can make us the most uncomfortable, the most fearful of, are the things we exactly need to do to get help and change. So I would just encourage them to make that first call. And once you make that first call, it gets easier. It may not be comfortable that entire time, but from admissions process, through the therapy, through the discharge, and then the aftercare to follow, it becomes easier over time. So I would just have the bravery and confidence to ask for help, and the rest will kind of fall into place as long as you're after it. So family counseling, especially with addiction, is paramount for recovery. The family often gets sick with the client. So you can do all the care in the world with an individual, but if the family's kind of left out, there's just a much higher likelihood of relapse. Maybe resources that are not being tapped into could be tapped into. So by having the family be a part of the process, they can understand their role in their client's recovery, how they can help, how they're maybe hurting recovery, not realizing it, to make the likelihood of success a lot higher, but also helping family cohesion and happiness. It's all about shame and stigma and hiding, and in group setting you realize you're not alone in feeling what you're feeling or experiencing what you're experiencing, and you can rely on each other, that peer support, for further recovery. So if you're having a craving, you have someone to talk to and then learn tools from, so you don't have to be alone in this process. So group therapy just kind of shatters that illusion that you're alone. So DBT, or dialectical behavioral therapy, is a modality of treatment originally designed for certain personality disorders, but it's found to be effective largely for a lot of other behavioral and substance abuse problems. With DBT, you're just taking cognitive components, behavioral components, and emotional components and kind of synergizing them together to help someone kind of stabilize their mood, so they can then think through their actions and then behave in a way that's more fulfilling to what they're needing, as opposed to just responding to distress cues. So CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, is a therapy that's focused largely, as the name suggests, on the thought process. So how do my thoughts influence my behaviors? In this process, we look largely to examine those thoughts. If they're irrational or they're just not helpful, they don't have to be, grandiose exceptions to the rule or beliefs about the self. They can just be simple interpretations on day-to-day interactions. By examining those, clients can find the power within themselves to then change it. So if they feel powerless, they can look at the interpretations like, well, I do have this power, I can find this. Then their behaviors change, their emotions respond in a more helpful way, and they have a higher chance of recovering. Dual diagnosis is so important to recovery. mental health and substance abuse go hand in hand. But chicken or the egg, in my opinion, doesn't really matter. You have both, let's treat both. So, you know, if there's an unaddressed issue such as trauma or schizophrenia or anxiety, you name it, probably influences the substance use or vice versa. So being able to address both makes the client a lot more likely to recover, as opposed to kind of piece by piece extending the process, as opposed to let's just knock it out all in one go if we can. One last thing I would say for whether it's a client, family member, anyone who's struggling, is to have the courage not just to make the call, but be a part of this process. You're not alone in feeling the feelings that you have or the experiences that you have, and if you let somebody in, a therapist, a peer, a family member, that's all you really need to do to start that process. It's not as complicated as it may seem or overwhelming as it seems. There are people like myself and a lot of other therapists out there to help, that we want to be a part of your recovery, be part of your story, and we can't do that without you. So what I would encourage is just make that first step for recovery.